Hi, everyone. Andrew Homer from Morphisec, and welcome to another episode of Customer Corner Series, where we talk with security leaders about their security planning and strategy. Today, I have a special guest, someone I really appreciate coming on, Skip Rollins, CIO of Freeman Health. Freeman serves multiple county hospitals, ICUs, and satellite physician and urgent care clinics across Missouri, Oklahoma, and Kansas. So welcome, Skip, and thanks for joining.
Thank you, Andrew. It's good to be here. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Look, before I begin, I want to express our gratitude to all the healthcare workers at Freeman, those also on the front lines and those supporting them. So Skip, one of the things we discussed together is this need for a security plan, right? Not just wing it, then panic and suddenly change with things that are happening with COVID, for example, right? A lot of the remote workers now having to work from home, people having to do their jobs in different ways. So maybe we can kick this discussion off, just hearing your thoughts around the importance in building a thoughtful security plan.
Well, Andrew, I would tell you that anyone that knows me very well knows I'm a planner. I have a plan for everything, and whether that's going to the grocery store or building a security plan, I always have a plan. So from my perspective, and I think that one of the things that a lot of people slip into sometimes is getting too focused on a single thing and not looking at the security posture holistically. And that's one of the things that we did early on when I got here, was to actually sit down with a guy that had been doing security and talk to him for a long time. And I said, well, let's make a PowerPoint presentation so we can describe to folks what we do. And through doing that, it helped him and me to kind of see our posture holistically and what the previous plan was, because I could see the components. But more I think importantly was to help him realize that we needed to look at it that way. And so it's kind of like a brick wall. It's made up of a lot of pieces, but what you really look at is the wall. So we look at our security posture that way. And I believe that that's the best way. I am not a technician. I'm not the CISSP guy. I'm not that, but I am more of a big picture guy when it comes to security. And I feel comfortable talking about it that way. If you start asking me about specific tools, I probably can't answer the questions right, but I can talk to you about how we formulated our plan.
Well, that's equally important as much as anything, right? One of the common things that we hear from not just our healthcare customers is, they can't spend on more tools, right? They don't have an army of people to manage them, but right. they still need to be secure. So how do you deal with that? How does Freeman deal with that?
Well, I think a lot of times we get caught up in the tools, and I participate in a fair number of conversations like this, and I think what's happening to a lot of organizations is they're literally overwhelmed with the data that's been thrown at them from their tools, and they kind of lose sight of the big picture. So from my perspective, we want to use the tools. We want to identify key tools, key pieces, and break that into part. When we talk about our desktop security, if we talk about our perimeter security, we always look at it as a bunch of different pieces, and we place them all together. And we like dealing with multiple vendors because we feel like that they have different approaches, which also in turn makes different problems for someone that's trying to hack into the organization. So
right.
Our strategy is cherry pick the solutions, but get the best we can get.
Great. And so how did Morphisec help you with that?
Well, Morphisec, and when we talked previously, I talked about how we found Morphisec, and it was at an industry meeting that I went to that was kind of cross industries, and there was particularly a bank there was talking about it, and I got really interested in it. So at that time, we were not particularly happy with our endpoint security, and we were looking for something to really fortify it. And I was really fascinated by the unique approach that Morphisec took to security by kind of hiding in the weeds, if you will, and waiting for something to come along that it needed to deal with. And we really liked that. And so Morphisec fit perfectly. We have a kind of a 3-tiered approach to endpoint security. It's the last line of defense. It's our last hope to catch something. And when it does that really well, it kind of just does its thing in the background, and you see the reports and you see that it's done things that you didn't even know about it. There's not a lot of glitzy, flashy things that go on. It just does its job. It's very utilitarian and very quiet about being extremely effective.
Well, you mentioned, Morphisec just works, that it's not glitzy and it does its job in blocking and damaging attacks. And that's probably the best compliment we could hear. I think, the market today, I mean, it's dominated by a lot of dashboards, a lot of whistles, a lot of noises that, folks, I think in the security space, we've become classically conditioned to want to see more alerts, to chase down more things. And, you actually have a very unique philosophy around this. And so what are your thoughts around that?
Well, there's so many things in the business that we're in, Andrew, that no news is good news. And so from my perspective, our customers call us when they're frustrated about something. Our tools yell at us when something's not going wrong, or not going right, I should say. And so my boss calls me when somebody's upset about something. So to have a tool that just quietly sits there and does its job and doesn't make a lot of noises for us, and you said what I said when we talked before, it just does what it's supposed to do, and having a tool like that really honestly can do what Morphisec advertises it can do is unique. And it's certainly not typical with a lot of the tools, but it's also very comforting as a security officer, someone that's legally responsible for a lot of things we do, to know that there's a tool there that can take on these hidden payloads and things that people try to do with phishing attacks and all those things, and keep them at bay where they're supposed to be. Mm-hmm. is very, very comforting.
Well, that's good. I think there's an unmet need in the industry today around simplicity in security.
Amen. I totally agree. It doesn't take a team of people to look at the logs. It's very simplistic when it tells you, hey, I found something, I stopped it, and it just moves on to the next thing. And so I think there is a true thing of alarm fatigue in the security business. I've been in a lot of panel discussions where everyone struggles with the amounts of data that's coming to them to try to understand what's going on in their security environment. And while we have that same problem, but we also try to get tools that's not as noisy as some of the other tools, because ultimately I have to pay people to honestly spend time doing something that's very, very unproductive. Cost me a lot of money to have them doing that. And then this tool certainly doesn't fit into that category.
Well, that certainly makes sense. I mean, we want to be paying attention to the things that matter. And I think, you had the analogy about, not feeling safe unless you were worried about things. I think there's a balance between worrying, right, and then having confidence in your strategy and confidence in the tools. And so, along the journey with Morphisec, at what point did you actually have that confidence that, look, this thing, when the light goes on, it's securing me, it's helping my business?
So it's interesting you asked that question, because when I first met the guys and we talked a lot about it, so I said, okay, we'll try it, because I know New Morphisec didn't have a big healthcare footprint at that time, and that's been a few years ago. And so we said, okay, let's put it out there, and we put it on the system, and and it was just like radio silence. And we, and I finally called my security guy, and I said, hey, is Morphisec saying anything? Is it doing anything? And he's like, well, we saw a few alerts. I said, well, let's just run the reports and see. When we ran the reports, we found several things that it had done, but it was just like, very quietly, very, just allowed a lot of noise. So it gave me, even still today, I think it's good when I don't get a report from Morphisec. I don't see anything because it does it so well. It does it so quietly that you just you kind of get to, and I'm to that place where you just feel comfortable with it, and you're secure, and that it's doing its job. So that is very unique. A lot of the tools that we have are really noisy, and we don't like noisy. We like things that just does their job, and it's not, like I said, it's not glitzy, it's not glamorous, but it does a hell of a job protecting our endpoints.
Well, like I said, that's the best compliment we could get, right?
We have it on well over 1,000 servers, and something in the ballpark of 5,000 endpoints.
Right, and I think we're protecting the gamut, including your virtual.
Everything that we've got, every desktop posture we got, it's on there.
That's great.
And every server that's on there.
That's great. So Skip, I know you're layered in defense. This is part of your strategy. Also, utilizing a well-known AV as well. But as we discussed, we recently introduced what's called Morphisec Guard. It's a
Right.
full prevention endpoint solution that now also leverages the core antivirus capabilities within Windows 10, plus all the everyday things that you need, like device control, encryption, host firewall, and then the advanced proactive prevention capabilities that you've been using for the last few years. So, now folks can actually eliminate costs right out of the gate, right out of the box with this all-in-one package, one single agent, one single dashboard. And so I just wanted to mention this to the broader audience, that the actions that we're taking is beyond just technology, all right, and advancement on proactive defense, but also incorporating it into a full solution. So.
And when you talked to me about that when we last talked, I mean, I've already talked to my guys about we're going to do a pilot and see how it does, because we're big Morphisec fans, and I'll say again, you guys, your products so to this point have done everything they said they would do. So we're excited about seeing how it fits into our environment, and I'll be hopefully talking to you about that product at some point in time. But we definitely will be putting it on some of our devices and see how it does. And if it does great, then we'll start blowing it out there.
Great. And certainly not trying to give you the sales pitch. Want to?
I don't need a sales pitch.
your audience here. So Skip, you've certainly taken a long-term, thoughtful plan around looking at security as an enabler, a business enabler. To close these episodes, I'd like to ask our customers, if you really boil it down, what general strategic advice would you give another one of your peers about, how you formulate a cybersecurity strategy, how to reduce risk, and also how that relates to Morphisec?
So, I had this conversation earlier today. So we look at security two ways. We got the dome that sits over Freeman and everything that's Freeman. And those tools are very, very effective and relatively easy to find. But we've also got this soft inner core, if you will, what's inside. That's the most vulnerable part of our infrastructure. And so we focus a lot on that soft side of the security. And I wrote an article not long ago when we talked about, and I said in the article, we know where the soft spots are.
Right.
And those are the pieces that concern us. So when we have a tool like Morphisec and you say, hey, you're going to broaden the capabilities of that excites us, because we're focusing on that inner core. So I would advise anyone that's out there looking at security posture holistically is to look at it. Don't spend too much time on that outer core and forget about where your soft underside is, because all of the big hacks that you hear about, all of the real high profile things always happen from the inside.
Interesting.
And someone gets credentials, someone gets in there, and so we go out of our way to try to use different techniques of isolating pieces and parts of the system either through Active Directory or using Citrix as a container, limiting folks the ability to move laterally in the system by how we design our file structures and things like that. It's all part of that. And it's all part of, like I said, the soft side is where all the damage gets done. So we really spend a lot of time looking at that soft side.
That's great advice. I mean, I think one of the overlooked things in the security market is that, hygiene, right? Like basic security hygiene, doing the basics really, really well is almost important as the tools that you choose to secure. So
totally agree. And the last thing I would say, in answer to that question is, it is very, very important to educate your user community about what you're doing with security and why you do two-factor authentication and why you have to have strong passwords. So helping them, being transparent with them is a good thing, because they understand what you're doing and they understand why you're doing it. And they that if you see something, say something model, it's what we really, really strongly encourage people to do. If it doesn't look right, then don't touch it. Call us and we'll look at it with you. So I think that educating your users is a very, very important part. And anyone that knows me knows I'm a pretty transparent, upfront guy. So if somebody does something smart, we yell at them and say, hey, that's a great job. We appreciate it. And if they do something that's not smart, then we go talk to them and try to make them understand why they can't do that going forward.
It certainly makes sense. I mean, awareness is one of the most, in education, is one of the most strongest parameters that's within your control. So.
I totally agree. It takes a village to make it happen.
Yeah, for sure. So great, Skip. I really appreciate coming on. I know you're a busy guy, sharing your insights today. For those interested in hearing more customer conversations like this, visit our customer corner section of our website, morphisec.com, and also on our YouTube channel. Once again, thanks, Skip, and we'll talk to you soon.
Andrew, it's always a pleasure. Talk to you soon.